Hi everyone, my name is MintSkull and today I will be doing a tier list based on my opinion on who the most strongest killers are in the game and who the worst killers are as well. So starting off, we're going to start from the bottom, and I think the worst killer in the game right now is the Deathslinger. So after the nerfs that they did to him, in my opinion, there's no point in playing Deathslinger. There's nothing unique about him, nothing that puts him above the other range killers like Trickster and Huntress, which we'll be talking about later. There's just nothing, especially since they nerfed his terror radius, which made him kinda unique as a silent, stealthy range killer. However, they just removed that, and right now there's no point in playing Deathslinger. He has mediocre add-ons. There's two add-ons that are kind of good, the ones that after breaking the chain you're way faster, and the reloading add-ons, but that's about it. The redescent is good as well, but there's no point in my opinion compared to the other killers. He's slow, he has no map pressure, he has even no lethality because he still has to hit twice. He has to hit you with the gun, hurt you, and then reload and hit you with the gun again and hurt you again. So he's very easily countered in my opinion, making him no point. I wish they just buff him or add something in compensation. I think he needs a rework in my opinion. He's interesting to play, yes, but there's no point, like I said before. The next killer that I'm going to talk about is Myers, and in my opinion, yes, he's not the worst. I used to be a Myers main. He's just not really good at this meta, in my opinion. The more the survivors have become smarter, look better, the worse Myers is. His kit hasn't changed nothing since he was released. They did change some of his power stuff, and I know they reworked some of his add-ons. He still has Tombstone, he still has Tombstone Piece, really strong add-ons. He has also the meme add-ons, being the mirrors, where he can play stealthy and with wall hacks. But if we are talking about the base Myers, he's just an M1 killer. Yes, he's stealthy, he has a smaller turret radius, and he has the tier 3 Evil Within, but that's about it. You play him as a normal M1 killer that just has to stay and stalk some people in order to gain some power. He has a very weak early game as well, no pressure, no map mobility. Survivors can simply wait the tier 3 or rush the gens. So yeah, he's not really good in this meta, but I'm not saying he's a bad killer. Then we have the Legion, and by the way, there's no specific order. Yes, I think the more on the right is the weaker side, but there's no specific order, especially with the A tier killers. So basically, the Legion has no lethality. He has to play as M1 killer in order to down someone. That's my only problem with him. Aside from that, he has good tracking. Once you hit someone, you know where the rest are. He's constantly keeping the survivors injured. He has lots of synergies with lots of perks, like for example Pentimento even, or Thanatophobia, Hysteria. Lots of like small, not very used perks are interesting in Legion, but that's about it. He has no lethality, and the worst part is that with the Circle of Healing meta, he gets really countered. Like, you normally when you play Legion, you leave the survivor you just hit. That's at least how I play, and unless otherwise there's a reason to keep chasing him, because then I need to cancel my power. But survivors will just go to the place where the boon totem is put, and they will heal back. So like I said, he has no way to down a survivor really good. Yes, he can vault pallets, yes, he can vault windows, but that's about it. So the next killer that we're going to be talking about is the Clown. And I know the community always memes about the Clown being the worst killer, the worst at the game. It's true that he has no map pressure and no mobility, but I think he is a good killer, not like the best, but he is not the worst. But yeah, there's not much to talk about him. I know he becomes a complete beast. Pinky Finger, I think, add-on. The one that when you hit with the bottles, they are exposed. But that's about it. He's not very good. He's not the worst at all. I don't think he's the worst, but he can be easily countered by survivors. The next killer I'm going to talk about is the Pig. Some recent times she got a rework on her add-ons, but that's about it. I still think the same of the Pig. I think she's still very RNG based regarding the traps. Most of the time survivors just get it on the first or second attempt. If it was always on the fourth, she would be really strong, and if it's always on the first, she has basically no map pressure at all. Once you run out of traps, you're just a M1 killer. She has the worst stealth in the game in my opinion. She moves super slow when crouched, and she also has to uncrouch, which makes a noise that survivors can react to. Her ambush attack is interesting, but it's not very useful in many loops. Still, that gives her a little advantage compared to other killers, but she's not the best, and I think she's the worst stealth killer in the game. If she's played as a stealth killer, yes, she's the worst, but she's not the worst killer in the game. She's just an M1 killer with benefits. After that we have the Trapper. Now I'm talking post rework as well. They changed lots of his add-ons. He now can carry two traps at base kit, which is really good. I don't consider Trapper the worst killer in the game, but I do think that his power is overall outdated compared to DBD. Like, DBD has been evolving, the game has been evolving. The main idea that developers had in the past, which was more focused on horror and setup and preparation, is out of the window. Right now the meta is way more different, way more chase oriented. Trapper, I think he's outdated. I don't think he's the worst, but yeah, he's really outdated. He got a nerf, or I don't know what changed, but now when you trap windows, if you trap it too close, survivors can jump from it, which was not the case in the past. I just think they need to add something to him maybe, or change something special to him. Then he will be good. I'm not saying he's the worst, I'm just saying he's very outdated. Now the next and final killer in C tier in my opinion is the Trickster. Now I know the community hates the Trickster and also playing against him. That's true, I don't think playing against him is really fun. However, there's one thing that I have to say. This is from the killer viewpoint. He's possibly one of the most lethal killers in the game, I'm not joking. His knives are absurd. When he hits them, that's the thing. If there's a tall loop, he is not really good. Like, you have to play way different when there's a tall loop, and you can just shred survivors. But in short loops or in straight lines, in straight hallways, he's a beast, and I don't think there's even a counter to him, especially with truck knives, the knives that bounce over walls. But I don't want to consider add-ons in this tier list. However, he has three massive problems. First of all, no mobility. He's slow. He has nothing to compensate being slow. Yes, he has lethality, but unlike Huntress, he can't attack from far away, even though his range, you have to use it close range or mid range. Second of all, he has a lullaby, so he has a 48, I think, meters stereo radius, well, lullaby that tells survivors where you are, so they can start holding W even before you see them, which is absurd. And finally, he has absolutely no map pressure at all. Like I said, survivors will just hold W. There's nothing you can do against it. Yes, you can be lethal, you can start hooking and then snowball of that, but you depend on your lethality. Also, main event is limited. You have to save it up, or you have to play around the main event in order to use it effectively. Most of the times it won't be, it just will be wasted, which is kind of sad in my opinion, that he is the only killer that has to use it temporarily. So anyways, I think the Trickster is the best killer in C tier, but he's still way easily countered. Like, he's absurd. I think he's either busted or he's weak. I don't think there's a middle ground. I don't know how the developers will balance him, but yeah, at least he's fun to play as a killer with his laughs and stuff. Now starting with the B tier, and I will start placing Doctor first. And I have to admit, I'm not very fan of the Doctor. I don't like playing him, but I know he has really, I think, the best tracking in the game. You press one button and you know where the rest of the survivors are, which is really good. He has the static blast, which when the survivor gets hit with it, they can drop pallets or jump windows. If you know how to play Doctor, I think he's suppressive. He's a good killer. However, he has no map pressure. I think he also has no mobility. Like, he basically is a M1. You have to play him as a M1 killer, in all honesty, which is kind of boring. That's why I'm not a really fan of him. Yes, I know you have the static blast. Yes, I know you can inflict madness on survivors, but the tier 3 is super easy to remove, and they go back in tier 1 also, which is not very good. And yeah, I don't think he can capitalize also on all survivors being tier 3. Once you leave one survivor, the thing he's gonna do is remove madness. So yeah, I'm not saying he's bad, but he is very middle ground. Next we have Ghostface, and I think Ghostface is a really good killer. He is really well done. Stealth wise, I like his concept. However, I don't like the execution. Now I understand that it's hard to program this, but the revealing mechanics sometimes is busted, and it's not perfect. Also, his stalking is really good. He can 99 survivors, which is a technique used by Myers and Ghostface, which basically you can pop your stealth and stalking chase, and you can instantly make a survivor exposed and down them. That's really good. However, aside from that, he has some kind of tracking when survivors look at you, that you know their direction, where they come from, but that's about it. He has no map pressure. Yes, you can play around being stealthy and ambush survivors. He has really, I think, from this whole tier list, he has the worst add-ons in the game. He needs 2 add-ons to be played like optimally, which is the Chilled Pen and the Address Book, I think, which reduce the cooldown of his power. His cooldown power in base kit is really long. I don't know why they did it so long. And yeah, he's a M1 killer with the opportunity to ambush survivors with no turret radius. That's about it. He's also short, which is kind of good. He can crouch, so he can hide behind most stuff. But yeah, there's nothing special about him aside from that. Next, I'm gonna be talking, sadly, about a killer that before his nerf, I think he was A tier, and he could be the candidate to be S tier. However, he got extremely nerfed in my opinion, like super nerfed to the point that it hurts me to put him in B tier, but I understand why. So basically Pinhead, I think he's a beast against solo queue survivors that are not coordinated at all. They don't know when to go for the lament configuration, so it's easy to get the chain hunt activated. However, against Survive with Friends, that's a whole different story. He gets really countered. Survivors know when to go to the box. The other 3 survivors can be calm, can be doing gens and stuff. Now his slowdown, his chain attack, I think it's kind of good, but also it breaks so easily against walls. I think survivors now are learning how to play against him as well. There's not much to talk about. It's really hard to hit it, but there's not much reward in hitting it, which is kind of weird. And finally they nerfed his most strong add-ons. I understand nerfing the Engineer Fang, which basically when you hit a survivor with your chain attack, the survivor gets hurt. I think that's too oppressive. However, they also nerfed the combo of stacking the box configuration resolving times, which was I think Larry's Remains and Gore something, which added 6 more seconds to solve the box. And in that case, you could play extremely oppressive. You could constantly chain hunts, but they removed that. They nerfed the add-ons by a lot. Right now, I don't know what add-ons to use with Pinhead, but I understand why. Now I'm going to talk about Nemesis. Now Nemesis, yeah, he's good. I have some problems with him. First of all, being that RNG based, the zombies, you don't control them, they are AI, and as such they can be absolute gods, as you can see in plenty of examples on videos, but at the same time they can be completely useless. There's a bug where the zombies get stuck in trees, in rocks, and in Midwich there's a drop near one exit gate where zombie can be stuck as well, which is really bad. His M2 power, the tentacle whip, it's easy to counter and it punishes super hard the Nemesis when it fails. He has to go to tier 3 super fast. He has 2 add-ons that help him a lot, and I think he has the same problem as Ghostface. His add-ons are useless except 2 and 3 that are extremely good, and they boost his power by a lot. And at tier 3 I think he's a beast. He moves super fast, he breaks pallets super fast, but at tier 1 he's super weak early game, and he has to hit survivors 3 times, and they can just go to a vaccine, put it on, and that's it. And you have to hit them again 3 times, which against really good loopers, this is really bad. And you also give them a speed boost. Now Bubba, Leatherface is really good. I was considering putting him in A tier. However, I think you need to know how to play him. Actually, he's super easy to play, yes, but against good loopers, they can make you get stunned with the walls while they loop. It's really hard to hug the wall with this killer. Like, they can just go around a tree and you have to counter it in some way. But yeah, he's very lethal. He has good mobility even. He can catch survivors super fast with his chainsaw. He's really strong. Windows counter him, of course, but you can play around that. He's really good at defending the basement. That's why most players camp with him. I'm not talking about camping with Leatherface. I don't like camping with him. I never camped with Insidious and stuff in the basement. I know people do. I know he's probably the best killer at camping. The reason why so many people do that is because it simply works. A lot of survivors are altruistic. They will try to rescue the survivor, and Leatherface can just down 2 people super easy. So yeah, overall I think he's really strong. Now this is probably the most controversial place that I'm gonna put someone in this list, but the next killer that I'm gonna put is Hillbilly. And again, like I said before, this is not in any order. I just put them based on the tier, but I think Hillbilly is good. I know he's not A tier anymore, not S tier, yes, but the only reason why not is because I think he just is way harder to play now that there's no instant chainsaws. My opinion on the overheat, it's bad. It's a bad idea, but it's not as bad as people said. I don't think it completely destroys Hillbilly. I think he's perfectly fine with the overheat. He's still lethal, he still has mobility, he still has everything. He's just way harder to play. I know there's some really good Hillbillies, they are gods at this game. They can do the flick, the Hillbilly flick, and once you learn that, you become a beast. I think he's probably the hardest killer to play in the game. I'm not joking, even harder than any of the next killers that I'm gonna put in the tier list, even harder than Nurse. Just because of how hard it is, I think most people simply dropped him because it's too much, it's hard, you have to constantly be playing good, you can't make a mistake punish you a lot, but he's still strong. That's my opinion, and if you want, please comment down below if you don't agree with me. I think Hillbilly is really strong. Now, the next spot, And sadly dropped from A tier is Wraith. Wraith is, since the buffs, he's really good. He was the killer that kills most for a while, that's why he got a little nerf. It's very noticeable. Also with Boom Totem meta, the Circle of Healing, I think Wraith is hurt as well. There's a playstyle with Wraith which was hit and run, where you hit a survivor, you cloak, go after another one, and then you ambush the survivor that is healing. Right now with boons, that's a bad idea. So yeah, Wraith has fallen down from A tier, which is kind of sad, but I like him. I like his playstyle. I still like his add-ons. I think they are very unique and they offer lots of different build opportunities. And yeah, he's really cool. Now, my final killer in B tier, and also I think controversial, is Freddy. Right now he's kinda nerfed, but I still think he's strong, just people stop playing him because he's boring. That's my opinion. I think that Freddy is boring to go and play as, so people just stop playing him, and right now I don't think he's deserving of A tier, but he's not a bad killer at all. I've seen people put him in D or C tier. No, in my opinion he's high B tier or even low A tier still. Also, you should try to use his palette add-on, which is kind of funny. It makes him play a little bit different and fun. He can create fun situations. But yeah, as a survivor, Freddy is really boring to play against. Also, the filter makes it completely repetitive AV map, which is kind of sad. But I mean, it's also cool. I wouldn't change that. Now, let's start with A tier, and I'm gonna put my favorite killer in here, so you see I'm not biased. I think Demogorgon is the best killer in the game, design wise and balance wise. I think he's perfect. If they don't change Demogorgon till the end of this game, I think that will be fine. He has really good power in chase, which is the shred. I think he's really good, really fun to play as and against. I like him. He has he especially combos well with save the best for last. Yeah, I think he's really good overall. Really great add-ons. There's two add-ons that are outliers, which is Barb's glasses and I think Blackheart, which boosts his shred power. Yes, they got recently nerfed, but overall I think the Demogorgon is just super balanced. Now, on the next spot is the twins. And I know this might shock some people, but trust me, I know what I'm talking about with the twins at least. Now, I know that if you're watching this, you probably haven't versed even the twins, like maybe once or twice. So you have no good idea about how strong the twins are. Trust me, the twins are extremely strong, especially when you play them the scummy way. I think they are pretty busted. So let me start by saying that, of course, the release of twins was really bad. So not a lot of people have bought the twins, and that's why not a lot of people play the twins. I think they are also boring to play. The playstyle that you have to play them in order to be extremely strong is camping, tree-genning, and also slugging. So you can camp super easy with twins. You just have to remove Victor before hooking a survivor, and you can put him right next to the hook. You can slug people super easy. You just have to hit survivors, then unbind Victor, go after them, down them, and go after the next one. Another point that I want to add, not a lot of people know how to play against the twins. Not a lot of people know that you can kick Victor. Not a lot of people know that Victor counters sloggers. But yeah, she's really strong, the Huntress. And I think she's perfectly balanced as well. I think she's completely fine as is. She's the best ranged killer in the game, and I think there couldn't be any better ranged killer in the game in my opinion. I think Trickster or Deathslinger, whatever they do, they won't be as balanced as Huntress is. She has such a simple kit, but it's so good. She has also a high skill ceiling. It's hard to play against, but it offers survivors a really... I think she's super fun to go against as a survivor. I think she's super fun to play as a killer. Whenever you miss, it's your fault. Yes, I know there's janky hitboxes. Yes, I know that with lag and stuff you can get some really nasty hits, but most of the time in my opinion, if I miss, it's my fault. If I get hit with as a survivor with the Huntress, it's also my fault. She's super fun to play as. A lot of people are also playing Huntress. Yeah, there's not much comments that I can say. She's really good. She has no mobility, she has no map pressure, but she compensates on how strong she is at a distance, because she's the only range killer that can do cross maps, which is interesting. And yeah, she's really fine. She's perfect as is. I don't think she needs any nerf or buff. Next killer that is going to in A tier is the Oni. And now I remember when the Oni was released, people said that he's just a worse Hillbilly. That's really not the case at all. I think Oni is the most lethal and with the most mobility killer in the game when he gets his Demon Rush power. So one thing that I have to add is that he has a really weak early game. That's true. But once you get the first hit, the Oni is absolutely a god. He can just keep snowballing. He's the snowball killer. I don't think there's a killer that snowballs better than him. Maybe Myers. But yeah, he has a lot of mobility with his power. He can be constantly hitting a survivor, downing them. It's super easy to use Demon Rush. You can do some crazy moves with him. You can do 180s. You don't need to be careful of walls like Hillbilly. You don't get stunned when you hit a wall. You can also hug a wall, surf. You can do lots of stuff. With the Infectious Fright, he gets massive tracking potential. You know where the next survivor is, and he's a god at slugging. Basically, you hit one survivor, you left it on the floor, and you go after the next. Like I said, the only counter to him is to play really safe in the early game, which hinders his power a lot. But once he starts going, he's like a train that doesn't stop. The next A tier killer in my opinion is Pyramid Head, and I think he's really interesting. He's an hybrid. He has a range attack, which is really good once you know how to use it, and I don't think survivors have lots of counter against it. You can cancel the M2 attack in order to fake survivors into going into windows or pallets. He has the Trails of Torment, which is a really strong effect. That's a debuff that survivors can get. Not only that, he's really efficient. You can hit through walls. If you have Tinker, that's really good against him. If you have Nurse's Calling, that's also really good with the Pyramid Head. He can hit more than one survivor with one attack. Let me talk about the Torment status effect. So not only is it really good, but it also counters all meta perks in this game, and you can counter DS, you can counter Borrowed Time, you can counter Kindred even, and yeah, you also save time. You don't waste any hook. As you know, when a survivor dies, the hook is destroyed. With Pyramid Head, if you torment them and you send them to your cages, that doesn't happen, so it's really good. Aside from that, yeah, I think he's really strong. The only thing that I wish they did is to add better add-ons for him, because I think his add-ons are very boring. He's very boring to play as. Because of that, in my opinion, I like killers that have variety in his build. With Pyramid Head, you will be playing like the same constantly. There's no variety in his gameplay, so that's kind of sad. But yeah, Pyramid Head is really strong. The next killer that I'm gonna put here is Hag, and I know some people consider her S tier. There's one reason why I don't consider her S tier, but let me start by saying that the Hag is possibly the strongest A killer in this list. Not only that, she's a setup killer. As you know, you have to put traps, and then you have to create a web of traps where survivors will go. There's one thing that I want to comment on Hag, and that is that she's super easy to play, and in my opinion, she's one of the easiest killers to play in the game. Like, you don't even need to chase people. If you set up the web good, you just have to wait for survivors to pass through there, and that's it. So I think she's really good, honestly. There's not many comments that I can make on her. She's really good at camping. She's also one of the only killers that I don't know why the rest of the killers, they can't use the powers around the hook. The Hag can. So for example, with Trapper, you can put traps around the hook. With the Pyramid Head, you can put the trials. With the Artist, you can put the birds even at 12 meters, I think. With Hag, you can place traps around the hook, which is kind of weird. But yeah, she's really strong. However, she gets easily countered by survivor friends. Once they know where your traps are, when you grab a survivor and you go to hook them, survivors will just disarm traps, or while you're chasing another survivor, they will also do that. With a flashlight, they can disable your traps as well, which is quite a bad debuff. But yeah, overall, I think the Hag is good. She's really easy to play. She could be boring. The setup game style is boring for most of the community. That's why you won't see her. But thankfully, in my opinion, that's good, because she's really oppressive. And when I'm a survivor, I don't like playing against Hag. Now, the last killer that I'm gonna put in A tier is the Plague. And in my opinion, a lot of people sleep on the Plague. I think she is really strong, especially in this meta with Circle of Healing. I think she's even better because boons are useless against her. She's super oppressive, especially with her recent quality of life changes and add-on changes. She has some really good add-ons. She's really strong, and I'm glad that I don't see many people playing against as her. I think she's hard to play as. I think she's way different compared to other killers to play as well, especially with her puke. Her puke is, in my opinion, hard to control. The stream, you need to know how to puke on survivors in order to use her effectively. But yeah, I think she's really strong, and I'm sad that not many people play her, in my opinion. You can do some crazy stuff with her. Now, starting with the S tier killers, and this is, in my opinion, the best killers in the game. We're gonna start with the Spirit. Now, she would be on the top if it was not for her nerfs, but she's still really strong. The only thing they added was completely fair, which is counter as a survivor. I even still think that it's hard to counter her, and it's hard to play against her, but now it's not based on RNG and luck. You, as a survivor, have a kind of fair chance against her. She's not free, basically, for the killer, which is good. I don't like playing as Spirit, so I never played her, even when she was busted, but I think she's in a really good spot right now. She's fair, she's really strong, she has mobility, she's really easy also. I think she's one of the easiest S tier killers to play here, but she was way easier before, and I'm glad that they nerfed her. And yeah, there's not much comments that I can make. Well, yes, I want to add one thing. They reworked her add-ons, and they added one add-on combination, which is, I think, stronger than pre-nerf Spirit. I'm not joking. Now, the next killer in S tier, in my opinion, is the Artist. And now I know she's the newest killer in the game as of now, but I think she has a lot of potential. And basically, as far as I've been playing with her, as far as I've been experimenting with her, yeah, I don't see any reason why I should put her below S tier. She's really strong. She has a very, very good 1v4. I'm actually impressed that she moves at 115 speed, because she has all the things that 110% killer would have, which is range attack. Her range attack can hit cross map everywhere. She has really good tracking. She knows when you're doing a gen, and the best part about her is that you can also chase two people at the same time. Like, you can be chasing one survivor, you can put a crow to one gen and put that crow away, you hit that survivor, and while you're chasing the other survivor, you can put another crow and hit them and injure them. She can injure lots of survivors at the same time as well. She's really strong. I think, yes, I think potentially she can be one of the strongest killers in the game. More than Blight, more than Spirit. Of course, she's new, she's fresh. Not a lot of survivors know how to play against her. She's very easily countered by holding W. However, her skill ceiling is super high in my opinion. You can do some crazy stuff with her. I wait for the moment that we have our first Artist main and he does or she does crazy stuff with her. I think she has potential in order to be a really good killer for a long while, and I think she will be nerfed. Once she will be nerfed, I will put her in A tier, but as of now, I think she's S tier. Now, the next killer that I'm gonna put here is, in my opinion, the best designed killer in the game, power-wise. Now, not balance-wise, but power-wise, he's super fun to play as and against, in my opinion. He's really good. He has lots of techs that you can use with Blight, Hug Tech, J-Flick. I think that's a bug, but yeah, he counters the whole W meta. He has extreme map mobility. He also has tracking. I know that's kind of weird to hear, but yeah, if you use some perks, you know where survivors are. You can go there super easily and they will start running because they are scared of the Blight, because of how fast they move. Now, base kit, yeah, I think he's really strong, but what puts him above Artist and Spirit is his full potential. Now, I know I said that I don't like putting add-ons and perks here, but most of the Blights that you're gonna play against as a survivor, and I'm telling you, I've been constantly playing against Blights that are like this, especially in high MMR, is Tinker, Pop Goes the Weasel, Ruin Undying Blights. That build is absolutely disgusting with Blight. It's super boring to go against, but it just works so well when you're playing as Blight. I've used that build to try, and it's really good. There's no reason to use any other build, which is kind of sad because all Blights use the same build. But yeah, I think he's really strong. I still think that you can play against him if you loop him well, because he can't go through walls, he can't do that. He still has to follow the laws of DBD. He still has to do something against windows and pallet. But yeah, he's the strongest killer in the game. I think he's also really good balance wise. I think the problem are the perks. I think if they do some, but I don't want them to nerf the perks. That's the problem. I don't know how I would go about resolving this problem for survivors, but yeah, I don't think he deserves a nerf. He's really good and he's really fun to play as and against if he's not using that build. And now I'm gonna talk about the best killer in the game, and I think the best killer forever. I don't think, oh, I can't put her. Okay, now the nurse. Before you even clicked in this video, I bet you knew that the nurse was gonna be the top killer in the game. Since her release, she hasn't moved down. They also buffed her with an add-on which gives her 3 blinks. I'm shocked, but okay, that's behavior's mind. I think she's the most busted killer in the game. She has no counter once you learn how to play her, in my opinion. She doesn't follow the rules of DBD. She doesn't give a shit about pallets. She doesn't care about windows. And aside from the community's viewpoint on this, in my opinion, is that nurse is actually easy to learn. I'm not kidding. Once you start playing with her, once you learn how to play her, she's easy to understand. That's what I'm trying to say. Yes, she has a high skill ceiling. Yes, against good survivors she's hard, but she's not as difficult as even Artist or even Blight, and I'm not joking. I even think that Hillbilly, like I said before, is harder than the nurse in order to play him well. But yeah, she's really good. She also keeps many perks in check. For example, all ears. I'm all ears. If they remove the cooldown, nurse would be broken. So lots of perks that are nice but are hindered by something, that something is nurse. I think that they will never release a killer that is stronger than nurse, in my opinion, never. The closest we have been in this game, I think it could be, for example, the Trickster, when he had the stacking add-ons that you can down a survivor in less than 3 or 2 seconds, I don't remember. But yeah, aside from that, the nurse is extremely good. She will always be good. If you want a killer that, if you want to play a killer that will always win games, you want to main a killer, main nurse. she's extremely good. In console, she's way harder to use, but if you're on PC, yeah, there's no reason not to play Nurse. She's one of the only killers that are used in competitive play. I think the S tier is the only killers that are used in competitive play, by the way, against competitive survivors. So yeah, that's my tier list. If you don't agree with me in any point, I would gladly respond to your comment. We can make some debate or something. I am down for that. But that's my opinion on killer powers. I will make a fun to play as and against tier list as well in the future. So yeah, if you like this tier list, please hit thumbs up. I'm more interested in your comments, in your opinions, if you would change anything. And yeah, thanks for watching and have a nice day.